We all love the thrill of starting a new game and the anticipation that comes from exploring an unfamiliar world. But there's also something reassuring about sticking with games you know and feel comfortable with. So what happens when you've squeezed every bit of life out of a beloved title, there are no new releases on the horizon, and you get that sinking feeling of having explored everything of value in your favourite digital world? Well, that's where this video comes in. Over the next few minutes, we'll be suggesting a series of simple tweaks to change how you play your old games. Some of these are straightforward twists that only require a bit of imagination on your part. Others will test your skills to breaking point and bring fresh challenges to games you thought you'd completed. And best of all, none of the following entries will cost you a penny. Think of it like upcycling your game library. Here are 7 simple tricks to make your old games feel new again. Let's start with an easy one. Try replaying a game with the minimap switched off. It doesn't sound like a big change, but you'd be surprised. It forces you to pay more attention to the world around you and will make loads of difference in a game like GTA because you learn your surroundings and feel more immersed in that incredible, detailed world. You can still use your main map, of course, otherwise you'd just be driving around in circles, but by doing this, you're watching where you are on screen rather than tracking your progress as a dot on a map. Truthfully, this probably works best in GTA 4, where you could still plot your path with your GPS and then use the in-car sat-nav to guide you to your destination.
Please make a U-turn where safe.
Alternatively, in a game like Skyrim, you can turn the HUD opacity right down so none of the on-screen prompts appear. This is great for adding a layer of depth and for admiring that still gorgeous world, but the loss of a reticule will involve a bit of guesswork when you're catching salmon, hunting elk, or talking to shopkeepers. Also, you might accidentally steal from people instead of chatting to them.
How dare you!
Our next entry involves a bit of imagination on your part. Try not being the hero. Instead of playing a game as the center of its universe, pretend you're part of it instead. You're not the Dragonborn, you're just a simple NPC. And the best way of achieving this is by doing a menial job. The Elder Scrolls games again are useful examples of how to make this work. There are loads of mods for this, obviously, but there is a simpler way. Instead of charging around bothering dragons, try to earn enough money doing a normal job to eat 3 square meals a day, ideally involving cheese, and sleep in a bed. You know, just like in real life. How you do it is up to you. Chop wood and sell your wares, or spend the day hunting animals in Skyrim's lush forests. Or, trying to, at least. But fighting bandits and going on adventures is strictly forbidden. Many MMOs offer similar scope if you play them differently. Instead of just power leveling in World of Warcraft, for example, try RPing a highwayman on a PvP server. You'll still end up doing lots of fighting, but by giving yourself a narrative goal, you'll be changing the pitch of the game. Our next suggestion is more about forcing the difficulty of a game rather than changing the narrative, although it can relate to our previous entry. Try playing a game without ever leveling up. You can change your gear and buff your weapons, but complete the whole thing as a beginner level weakling. The best example of this, of course, is the legendary Onebroto run in Dark Souls, which takes an already hard-as-dragon-scaled game and makes it almost impossible. You can still summon people to help you with bosses, but trying this makes Dark Souls a completely different, somehow even more merciless game. This is a pretty hardcore one, and in truth it's probably too hardcore for us, which is why much of the footage you can see here is from the Undead Burg right at the start of the game. But if you want to take your skills to the next level and prove that you're a different class of gamer, completing a game without ever leveling up is the ultimate statement of power. Alternatively, this works really well in conjunction with number 2. If you're playing a simple hunter or gardener in Skyrim, there's no reason why you'd suddenly get better at sword fighting, for example. Stick to level 1 and the world will seem more threatening. It's just a shame you can't level up picking cabbages. You came into this world at level 1 and you'll probably leave it at level 1 as well, over and over and over again. Another cool way of adding an extra dimension to old games is to give yourself specific limits. Try to play all of Wolfenstein using only knives, for example, or stick to a single school of magic, something tricky like alteration in Skyrim. Far Cry is a particularly good series for adding these limitations, such as playing the whole game as a badger-baiting Robin Hood who only fights using a bow. But if changes like this seem too sweeping, you can dial it back a bit by limiting your options in other ways. You could stop using fast travel in Skyrim, for example, or stick to a single mode of transport in GTA. Or better still, try going everywhere on foot. It'll give you the chance to really take in the world, watch those majestic sunrises, and revel in the glory of nature's bounty. Isn't this lovely? Oh, come on. We've all done it. You're playing a game that allows you loads of options and branching stories, but you can't decide which path to take. So instead of making a decision, you end up with hundreds of different saves, all from different forks in the road, none of which you'll ever go back to. In truth, we're only lying to ourselves. As you might have guessed from the title of this entry, this one is all about being disciplined and using a single save file. Yes, we know that sounds risky, because it is. But in RPGs especially, it adds a layer of depth that makes all of your choices more powerful. So if you make the wrong one, you can't fudge it. This is particularly effective in games with romantic choices because it's much more like real life. You act on impulse and you have to stick with your choice of romance, even, when it sucks. That's not us speaking from personal experience, by the way. And with something like Mass Effect, there's the added danger of messing everything up and your entire team dying in a suicide mission. An alternate version of this comes from adding permadeath to your own games. Try playing Minecraft with one life, for example. Once you get thumped by a zombie, you start again from scratch. It's frustrating, but brilliant. And if you're feeling especially brave, try this with a vicious old-school game such as Resident Evil 2. Creeping through the whole game without saving completely changes the way you play and will bring a new meaning to the term survival horror. Try it yourself, it is legitimately terrifying. Our next entry relates more to the way you play rather than specific tweaks in the game. Instead of just playing a game on your own, try bringing other people into the mix. Stream your games with narration or try turning them into Let's Plays. And better yet, you can give your playthroughs a narrative angle by using some of the suggestions in entry number 2. If you're offering a different take on an old game with an overarching story that ties everything together, people are far more likely to keep coming back. And if you do decide to try this after watching this video, please do let us know. We'd love to hear about it. And if streaming or talking over games really isn't your thing, instead, try double teaming a game with a friend. Swap places each time one of you dies, and it'll bring a whole new element to every single playthrough. And finally, the most obvious option and the one most suited to people lucky enough to play their games on PC. Use mods. We've covered this in another video previously, and you can check that out by clicking the link above now. But the short version is that your favourite PC games almost certainly have a range of amazing mods that will offer limitless longevity to your games. These range from simple cosmetic tweaks, such as better water or nicer flowers, to full-on overhauls that facilitate more thoughtful methods of play. Things like Alternate Start for Skyrim that lets you change your origin story, or Frostfall, which makes the whole game a battle for survival against the icy threat of hypothermia. Heck, there's even horse armor for anyone who wants to relive the heady days of Oblivion DLC. And there you have it, 7 simple tweaks anyone can try that will hopefully bring a fresh perspective to games you thought you'd finished. It's creative reuse for your Steam favourites. Do you have any suggestions about how to squeeze those extra drops of joy from your essential games? And have you tried any of these in the past? If so, please let us know your top tips for adding longevity to your games in the comments below. Give us a like if you fancy giving any of these a try, and please subscribe to Logitech G for more tips, features, and weekly shows. Thank you very much for watching.